Not the Footy Show.
Wait, you, Strawberry. Good effort today. Take a lap and hit the showers. I'm putting in a right-handed batter to hit for you.
What? You're pitch hitting for me?
Yes. You see, you're a left-hander, and so is the pitcher. If I send up a right-handed batter, it's called playing the percentages. It's what smart managers do to win ball games.
Be the ball.
G'day everyone, was from Not The Footy Show. Well, we record this on Monday night, but due to a communications breakdown, episode 230 has not been released until Wednesday, the 31st of March, as opposed to being recorded on the 29th. So what we talk about is a little bit dated, but hopefully you enjoy it. The 18th man thing, it looks like the ARLC is going to mandate an 18th man. The rules around that seem a little bit hazy still, but it doesn't really affect what we talk about because we're forecasting that this is going to happen. So hope you enjoy a rather delayed Not The Footy Show, episode 230.
G'day everybody, welcome to episode 230 of Not The Footy Show. I'm Warrick Nicolson. You can't see my face and you can't see this man's face either. That's the way he wants it as well. Mr. Robb Cox, welcome, sir.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Oh, fantastic. I'm in the middle of an industrial estate trying to get good reception on the north coast of New South Wales.
You're a creepy man just driving around the streets.
Well, the last time I was at a pool up here, it's just about reception. That's the whole idea.
Well, like I said last time, mate, they've probably put a photo of your car and your face up near that pool and you're not allowed anywhere near it.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. But there's no light, basically. So there is no video today, everybody. It's round 3 review here on Not The Footy Show, episode 230. It's going to be a quick one because we're not looking at each other. So the quality of the show is just going to go down, 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 so far down, Cocksmith. Not that that's possible to go much further down than where it's at now. Yeah. But, mate, the 27 followers we have on Instagram right now, they demand more. They demand more from Not The Footy Show.
Absolutely, they do, mate. And you know what? I'm missing looking lovingly into your eyes. So next time we will do video.
Next time we will do video. Everybody, it's time to get into the aftermath from a chaotic round 3 of the 2020 NRL Telstra Premiership. A weekend of upsets, really. Although some idiot in the car right now picked Manly on Friday night. So you didn't talk me out of it again. You are in a massive hole, Cocksmith. I've put it out to you both times. Please convince me to pick Saints, and you've gone, nah. And I'm sure you've picked them in every tippy comp you're in. But what has come out of the weekend, and it's the main topic of discussion on this show, everybody, is the demand, the request, the what's the word? The driving narrative that is 18th, 19th, 20th, 30th, 50th men that apparently all clubs need in every single round, mate. What initially was your reaction to the idea of this, which was floated probably a year or two ago about having a concussion substitute on the bench? What do you think of, the concussion substitute, 18th man?
I like it. I like it especially now. We've spoken about this before and I wasn't really a fan, but I'll be honest with you, the NRL have sped the game up by, a fair few percent. And I'm not saying that the sped up game is the reason why we've got a lot of injuries right at the moment. They've come in the round 3, but I don't think that they're helping the problem. So I like the idea of an 18th or 19th man. My only problem is with it, as is with any rule change, is the way that coaches or clubs will rort the system. So it has to be unroutable. Now, I don't know how you do that. It's very,
good luck.
Yeah, I know. It's when you've got some masterminds of people that know how to bend rules, quite, fragrantly. It's just one of those things that, I don't know, man. It's I kind of, one part of me, one half of me says, no, don't have any more players on the bench because, we saw Aaron Woods play 80 minutes, I believe, the other night for Cronulla, which is a fatigue factor.
I think at the Tigers from memory.
Yeah. But yeah, look, as it is right now, to your question, I like the idea of an 18th man for a concussion or a catastrophic problem.
Well,
like
okay, that's why
ACL.
I put it in. I think you have to have a differentiation between a major injury and a concussion. Concussion is there to protect the player. A major injury, it's 9 times out of 10, it's just bad luck. You saw with the Luke Keary one and just his leg going on him. The bad luck factor is in rugby league. Some teams thrive under it versus the other ones. They get a couple of injuries and it's all over. But the concussion one, if it's policed correctly, and we saw another example on Thursday night, I think Brendan Smith looked like he'd been knocked out and he played pretty much the rest of the game and he avoided coming off. But you also had situations in the next couple of days where Canberra played with 14 players from the 10th minute onwards and Cronulla played with 13 players from the halftime mark onwards because of the concussion rule and the enforcement, which is if you fail your HIA, you can't come back on. This is where I think 18th man concussion substitute on paper looks really smart, because if you have a situation like Canberra or Cronulla where Canberra had 2 concussion guys in one go, in one tackle, James and Chris, and then the Sharkies, I think, lost 3 blokes, Will Kennedy, Britton Nakora, Wade Graham, and who was the other one? Do you remember? Was it a concussion as well?
Sione Katoa?
No, it was Katoa with the knee. So it wasn't a concussion. So three concussions for Cronulla, 2 for Canberra.
Yeah.
This is where I guess I don't like the idea of having just an 18th man there for any injury, because if you have a player go off with an ACL in a key position and you've got the option to pick anybody in that 18th man, then I can see it being. I don't like the idea of just being able to replace someone because they're injured. I don't like that, because there is a war of attrition element in rugby league. Yeah. What worries me about the concussion one is I think you're going to have a rule that says the 18th man can only be activated if you have at least 2 players ruled out through the concussion substitute. If it's just one, I see it being rorted just deluxe, because the smart coaches will find an injury or find the concussion or find something out of a heavy collision that if they need to get somebody into the game to change the fortunes of the game, they will make that change. And that is the bit that worries me about purely having the concussion substitute there as 18th man for one player going down. That's where I sit right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I see the NRL are very, very touchy as far as concussions go. Trying to do everything they can to not have a player go back on the field if suspect with concussion, which I understand. I think they're going to go for it. May not be this year, but I think they're going to go for it to try and not have a player that could have, and I say could have, in inverted commas, a concussion go back on the field.
Do you think that's the threat, though, Cocksmith? Do you think I think they've got that down to a bit of an art anyway, really. There's sometimes you'll look at a player who looks like he's being concussed and he'll go back on, but it's a rarity these days. They're generally pretty proactive in keeping players off. Do you? I don't know. Sorry to cut you off just then, but
no,
that's right. my feel is that they've done the right thing for the most part. Sometimes it gets missed, but it's not like I feel like they're missing, one every game or anything like that.
No.
It's quite few and far between.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, the way that I'm just thinking with my minuscule, kind of NRL hardened brain, I think there's a few ways you could rort it. If you name an 18th, it depends who you name as your 18th player. Depending on how a game's going, you might decide that there's a player that could change the game for you, but you may not want to pick him if the game doesn't go that certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? And
then is there flexibility in who's 18th man? I guess
I don't think so. I think you have to name an 18th man and that'd be it.
But why does it stop at 18? I guess is my counterpoint to this, because the Canberra and Cronulla examples are declaring that you can't just have one left over. You got to have more.
Correct.
And I don't like that. I don't like that idea. I don't think, because here's my big concern. Yes, they can be rorted, but the smart coaches do not like the fact we are down on interchanges.
Mm-hmm.
If you expand the bench and you bring in this option, do you not then have to, as a case of looking after players, expand the interchange? Because at the moment, you're still going to cost yourself an interchange if you replace the player.
Yep.
So, you see what I'm saying? Like, what is it now?
I know.
Is it eight now, isn't it?
I know exactly what you're saying, and this is the fine line we tread when we start to reduce interchanges now. And let's be honest, the coaches loved it when it was unlimited interchanges. They loved it.
Yep.
They could throw a different team on virtually. 4 players, on you go, boys. Attackers, attack. So they loved it. It was a coach's dream. I nearly put another word in then. It was a coach's dream, and but it wasn't great for the fans because there was really no kind of fatigue come into it too much. So then we went down to 12 interchanges, did we not?
Yep.
From unlimited to 10 to 8.
And now 8.
We've got 8 now, and there are some people that are saying we should be 6, but I think 8. I don't think you'll ever get it below 8. My fear is, Luke Keary the other night. Let's go away from concussion for one moment.
Yep.
Let's say that happens to Luke Keary in the first 2 minutes of a grand final. I mean, they're probably hard up against it to compete without their main playmaker anyway, but it would just destroy a game. The Roosters would be hard to. I mean, I'm fearful for their season now, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yep.
But I don't mind the idea of an 18th man, but I think that there has to be a very tight policing of it. And if there is any, like if a player goes off for a concussion, and they use the 18th man, there's no way in the world that player can play the following week. It should be mandatory. No, you can't play
that's the other part of it, isn't it? And that seems to be the Nathan Cleary example. He was left out, even though they went really hard, Penrith, to say that he was fine. They made a real big song and dance about the fact that, if it wasn't for the protocols,
he was, mate.
I'm just saying they would have played him if they'd had an extra day. It wouldn't have even been questioned. And I guess to your point is if he goes off for a concussion, which he did, and when DWZ tried to take his head off, like that also comes into it. If that stand down rule is in effect, regardless of how many days between games, which is another part of it, because some teams play on Thursdays and Fridays, and other teams play Saturday to Saturday, which isn't a fair and reasonable if it's a 7-day stand down. There's that factor coming in, and I don't know.
Did by the way, can I ask you a question? Did DWZ play for the Bulldogs the other night?
No, he got suspended for 2 weeks.
He got 2, did he? Okay, sorry, I didn't. I wasn't across that. Okay,
I think he got 2. I'm pretty sure he got 2.
Fair enough.
But this is the thing that worries me is that you've got the ability to manipulate it. The interchange, if you have an 18th man, and if you've got more than 18 men, the interchange will get changed because they will demand that, if we're replacing a player, it shouldn't count. Because safety and all this kind of stuff.
You would think that they would have to be granted one more interchange.
But then I don't agree with you in regards to the Keary example. As in, I think that's just football. It's like a bad decision from a referee. It's a bad video referee decision. It's part of the way the game has been played for so long, and I think you get to a stage where I just don't like messing with something like that. I don't want to see players get injured. That's not what I'm suggesting. I just think it is part of what our game is. We talk about bringing the fatigue factor back in. Well, sometimes players go in with dodgy hamstrings. All right.
Sure.
It's a rule in cricket where if you go in injured, you can't have a runner. What used to be, now they don't allow them at all in the top level of cricket. But this is the thing. It was always a risk that you took by going in underdone. And this is the other parts of if you expand it to regular injuries, I think it's a slippery slope.
Well, look, we're going to have to I know that we're going to have to agree to disagree on it, because I honestly think that it should be brought in for, at the very least, a concussion, a genuine concussion. And that means that the player who goes off must stand down the next week, no matter if it's an 8-day turnaround or whatever.
And it's a grand final.
Too bad. So sad. This is where we need to stiffen up a little bit at the NRL. I mean, there's, like we kind of touched on last week, we get very, very flippy floppy around Origin time and around grand final time. And I know that there are pundits out there that will say, you can't let the kid miss out on a grand final for that. Well, we all make choices in our life. We all make choices in our lives.
Speaking of choices, as we wrap up how good the NRL's going, Cameron Munster skated on his hip drop, which I just cannot fathom. We talk always about looking after players. If Spencer Leno, and I know we exchanged messages around this, Spencer Leno does his knee, does Cam Munster avoid suspension?
No, he doesn't there.
Does he? He doesn't. No.
But, yeah, it didn't happen, thankfully. Mate, I mean, the other night, we really got to see the smorgasbord, didn't we? And I say it with a little bit of a wry grin, but we got to see the smorgasbord of Melbourne's tactics the other night with a couple of suspect tackles, which we won't go there because I don't want a letter from Bellyache. But there was some time wasting that and I saw another team do it as well the other night. Cronulla did it too, but taping someone's head, I think if a player needs their head taped in the break of play, they should go to the sideline and do it and carry on because.
And I believe the rules are allowing that right now. You don't have to get replaced, but you've got to go off for 2 minutes.
Yeah. And Cameron Munster the other night on that dropout, when they were absolutely crumbling Melbourne, and he gave his team around about a 50 or 60 second break, which is enough for them to recover. We saw everything. We saw
them dominate the play the ball. Atkins, who I like as a referee, that's the worst game I think I've seen him in first grade. In terms of controlling how one team was approaching things. He just let them get away with murder in the play the ball. And I'm not talking about foul play. I'm talking about time in the play the ball.
I couldn't see it.
Sorry.
I couldn't see it like you could because you're watching on TV. But what I did notice was quite a lot. Players would come in, lay all over the attacker, and then look at the referee to see how long he's watching them for.
We got rid of that a couple of years ago, or so I thought. But it's back with a vengeance. Speaking of being back with a vengeance, Ice Cold Gus is back. Hashtag Ice Cold Gus on Instagram. This is where I find some of Gus's best comebacks to questions or just statements. And this is why I brought the Munster example up. This is from Frankie2193. He says, Gus, do you think all the injuries that are happening have to do with the amount of time the ball has been in play due to the new rule changes? Gus, no. Players getting injured at training and warm-ups. Players get hurt in the first few minutes of game. This has nothing to do with fatigue from the new rules. Tackle techniques and obsession with quick play the balls is a major factor. I keep warning them. Their ears and eyes are painted on. Ice cold Gus. And it's why I relate it to the Munster example. That is a technique that he is talking about and how injuries happen. He may not get the letter that Paul Kent's got for absolutely unleashing on Bellamy on NRL 360 the other night. But what I just put out here is that Gus sees it. And Gus is the guy that we sort of alluded to 5 minutes ago about the whole, it's a grand final, let him play kind of thing. That's the Gusism. But he is not missing here and he's not wrong. Injuries are going to happen, people. And I'm in his camp of, I don't think it is purely down to the six again and the speed and the rest of it is why we're seeing injuries. Our game is a brutal game. The collision between Ryan James and Seb Chris the other day, that's just football. And look, it was on Sean O'Sullivan, who's a little halfback. It's not like they tried to take on a big fella and, it's just the way our game is built. And we don't want to see players get injured. We don't want to see the concussion rule have to be brought in. But I think to sum up this first segment, Cocksmith, something's going to happen. You just hope that PVL and Abdo and the Rules Committee, I guess, get it right and don't just react with a Band-Aid, which seems to be, the fairly consistent option at the moment.
Yeah, look, I hope it's well thought through. I hope that they talk to some ex-coaches about how they could rort it. I hope that that's really forensically investigated. They can't bring it in this year, though, mate. Please, no more mid-year rule changes. It has to be next year if it's going to be brought in. But it has to be well thought through, I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's the opening segment of Footy Show 230. Nice and short. I laugh. Round 3 results after the break are Not The Footy Show.
Not The Footy Show.
Okay, it's episode 230. Rob Cox over there, Warrick Nicolson here. You can just hear our voices, and if you're watching on YouTube, you've got a stagnant image. How exciting is that? Speaking of a stagnant image, I'm looking at my tips from round number 3, and I've just got way too many crosses in my image after carving up the first 2 weeks. I was 14 from 16, Cocksmith.
Yep.
Um,
You're not.
I'm not
your
that
average has
good
gone
anymore.
down.
Yeah, Panthers 12, Storm 10, Dragons 38, Manly 12. It wasn't
Go
even
the
that
Dragons.
close. Rabbitohs 26, Roosters 16. Goodbye, Luke Kugiri. It was nice to know you. That is tragic. Canberra 31 got run down by the Warriors 34. Broncos 24-0 over the Bulldogs. Oh, so glad I was driving. 28-4, Parramatta beat the Sharkies. The Tigers, first win of the year with a 24-20 win over the Knights in Newcastle. And the less said about the Cowboys, 8, Titans 44, the better for Toddy Payton and the boys. We've referred to the Thursday game in regards to some of the things coming out of it. But the game itself, Cocksmith, fun.
Cracking game. Really, really good game of rugby league. The only blight on it, I would say, I've only seen a highlights package. I was there working at it, but the only blight on the game was the slowing down in the play the ball and the wrestle and, lots of other things that we talk about when we're talking about mostly Melbourne games. But, geez, there was some good football in it. And, there was, I think Penrith did really good to win without their leader.
And their fullback after half-time.
Well, that's right. But let's not forget.
Tremendously.
Let's not forget Melbourne are missing a few players as well.
They are.
So,
speaking of that, and I want to get this is what we brought up before the game, and then we talked about it afterwards. This is the edited version of that conversation. But Jerome Luai is lining up next to Kikau, Crichton, and Toll. All right, all year. And it's a devastating left edge. The Storm don't have Felice Kafusi, who is their glue guy on the right edge, which is the one that defends that side.
Yep.
Ivan Cleary brings in Matt Burton for Cleary, which made sense. And then he moved Jerome Luai away from the left side and played him on the right and played Burton on the left. What was Ivan Cleary thinking? What do you think he was thinking? I can't work it out.
Well, I think he might have been thinking about the year before when he played Luai on the right. And he probably thought that the last time Burton played that kind of secondary playmaker role to Luai, he played on the left. So I'm not exactly sure. That's the only thing I can put it down to, mate, because I think he weakened his left edge by keeping Kikau and Luai apart. But, I think there might have been some lessons learnt. And,
about the 73rd minute.
I wanted to say before when you said that Burton naturally was the fit for Cleary, I disagree. And we've spoken about this.
This is the first time that you've ever mentioned it to me in the last week or so, mate.
We've spoken about this. I would have had Burton on the bench maybe, but Tyrone May would have been my 6 straight into the game.
Well, he's not going to be your 1. I think he proved
that's true.
in that game.
That's true. He's not a 1. I think Burton would probably make a handier 1, but I'm not sure if he's got the gas to cover the miles. But anyway, Penrith won, mate, 12-10, and I think it's the start of a bit of a rivalry going forward probably for this year and into the future.
Yeah, very enjoyable game of footy. The ending, Justin Olam, pass the ball, son. Pass the ball. Dragons 38, Manly 12. I felt sick. I was watching this on delay, so you can imagine how much fun that was, not knowing the result.
I should text you.
Benny Hunt's injured though, mate. He played the second half with a broken leg, apparently.
Really?
Yes, you are the president of the Ben Hunt Appreciation Society. I cede to you once again.
Has he got a broken leg for real?
He's got a broken leg. He played with he thought he had a cork, and he ended up actually having a broken leg. So he's out for about a month. What impact does this have? I mean, it didn't have an impact on him the other day because Manly, even with DC and 4.5s, they were atrocious. And I actually was lulled into a false sense of security, I think, by how bad South were the week before against Manly, rather than how good Manly were. And the Dragons, mate, you've got to be excited because these are the wins you got to get to make the top 8. You've got to beat the teams that are in and around you.
Well, you're right. You've got to be excited, except Bunt, who is our best player, is now out for the next 4 weeks.
Can I bottle that comment?
You know what I mean?
Love it. I'm just going to have that repeating through the rest of the show.
Yeah, well,
Bunt is our best player. Oh,
well, he was the other night, and he was the week before too. So,
yeah.
but now Bunt is
What
going to be
a 85th of his career. Manly, there are big issues. There's only good thing that they've got going for them, as far as I'm concerned, is Josh Schuster looks like an edge back rower. I like the look of that kid. He's not a 5'8" because he's way too big.
Yep.
And they desperately need someone on an edge because Jack Gosetsky is not the answer. Andrew Davies done his knee. Curtis Siren and Schuster on the edges. You're improving Manly, but they just look really weak in the middle. And the news came through this week that Tapau's apparently going to get replaced by Sewer. What's going on with that?
I didn't hear that one, mate. I thought Tapau was one of their better ones the other night.
Yeah.
So what? Jaden Sewer?
That's apparently they're going after him for an edge spot, which I just said. I think Schuster that's his position.
Yeah.
And he looks like he played it pretty well in terms of fitness as well, which is a little important thing to note on that. But finish the game off. Dragons, well done. You're 2-1. I don't think you get the spoon. I'm a bit wrong there.
Mate, we've won 66% of our games this year. We're flying, and whatever you do, don't question the professor, the mad professor, mate. He will get his
Griffin's biscuits. How good's he going?
Up.
Still wearing that horrendous polo shirt, but that's all right. South Sydney 26, Roosters 16. I'm sitting there at the end of the Dragons Manly game, just feeling sick, going, "What have I done?" And going, "I know the Roosters are now going to lose. I'm gonna cop a 0-2 Friday night footy. I just know it." But I couldn't bring myself to change my tip. I still had time by the time the game had finished. This was over pretty quickly, and the season might be over for the Roosters with Luke Keary doing his ACL.
I'd suggest so, mate. I think I don't think they can win a competition without him. I don't think they can win as many games as they would have without him. I don't know who's going to fill in, but I imagine it's going to be Sam Walker. Lachlan Lamb's gone as well, so they might even bring Drew Hutchison in.
He'll play with. It'll be him and Walker. I can't see Joseph Manu being moved from the centres. I think it just weakens you too much doing that, especially if he can look after a young fella on the right edge.
Unless you bring Suwali in. So Suwali is going to get a call up sooner than he thought, for sure, at some stage. But I can't see them, mate, when you name, I know they've still got their forwards, but when you name Sam Walker and Drew Hutchison in the halves, I can't see them going blow for blow with a Penrith or a Storm or someone like that, mate. They will get pumped.
It's going to be one of those tough years to watch what might have been, because they'll win some games where we'll go, oh, maybe they can turn it around. Maybe without Keary they can do it. I just think at the point into the game, South, they've got the Roosters number at the moment, and they were really good. I thought South played really good football.
Yeah, I caught the last 20 minutes on a bit of a delayed. I just wound it back and watched the last 20 and saw Keary do his, because I was at obviously at the Dragons game the other night. Saw Keary do his ACL, which is very sad. The poor bugger's had some concussion problems in the past and whatnot, and now this has happened to him. I do feel for him. But from the bits and pieces that I saw in that game in the last 20, but I also saw a highlights package. Souths are a bit of a smoky for this competition. I think. I don't think they're as obvious as some people have said until now. They've gone up another click, and what we saw the other night was pretty darn good.
They're now 2-1, and they were really blown away in the first half of the opening game. And then they rallied against Melbourne. They weren't out of that match even after being down 18-0. It's a really good sign for Wayne Bennett. Remember, it's his Uncle Benny's last year in charge of South. I had him in the grand final against the Roosters. I don't think that will happen now, obviously with Keary, but Bunny's looking very good. The Canberra 31-12 lead that they butchered, I've only made it to halftime on this game. I was out during the afternoon and saw the score just tick up, and the Warriors ended up getting home.
Yep.
Ricky was extremely proud after the game. I've heard this a number of times, and I don't doubt that he was. But 31-12 with 20 minutes to go, or 25 minutes to go, you still got to win that, even if you've only got one bloke on the bench. I think you do.
Yeah, well, Ricky's... No, I think you're right. Ricky's press conference is a cracker. If anyone wants to watch what a coach has to do to not get a fine, watch that. from that game. I didn't catch any of the game, mate, because I was at Parramatta for the Parramatta and Cronulla game, so I didn't catch.
Getting round. Cocksmith's just
3 games.
Working for the man. I like it.
3.
Warriors, that's impressive. 2-1
Yep.
now, the Warriors.
Yes.
And they've got the Roosters this weekend, I think. So that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I like the Warriors. I told you I like the Warriors for the 8. Told you.
Yeah, you did. All right. The other game on, so well done, Warriors. Phil Gould, Supercoach Gould. Do not doubt the impact that he has had with those players. Broncos 24-0 over the Bulldogs. I am not talking about this game. We are moving on. Parramatta 28, Sharks 4. I mean, I watched the second half. I was driving during the first half.
You weren't going to talk about it, mate. No, you're going to talk about it.
The other game we're not talking about. The one that I just referenced.
Oh, you're not going to talk about the Broncos?
No, that doesn't count. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The ABC team on the audio were absolutely laying into it. It was like, I actually wouldn't be surprised if they get a talking to from someone from sending a letter from the Bulldogs or the Broncos saying, you might want to talk our teams up a little bit if you want to get into our press boxes again. It was brutal. Correct, 100% correct, but brutal. 28-4. The scoreline obviously blew out with Parramatta winning over the Sharkies with the injuries.
Yep.
Parramatta fans, once again, they're buying tickets, grand final tickets. They're there 3-0.
Lots of tickets, mate. They're flying, but they did lose M. Moses to what he claimed was a shoulder injury to the trainer, but the trainer wasn't buying that and said, mate, off you go. It took 2 players to save him from falling flat on his face during that game. But, yeah, you know what? Parramatta look, it kind of, I've got to grit my teeth when I say it, but Parramatta look pretty good.
They do.
For a top 4 position, I'd suggest, if they keep going the way they're going.
Yeah. Dylan Brown is one of my favourite footballers. That kid, I just wish he could do a little bit more in attack. And I'm not being critical in terms of he's not doing enough. Now, it's just I'd love to see him get his hands on the ball a little bit more because he is one of those 1% of players who just does everything really well all over the field. You don't really notice it sometimes, and occasionally we'll see something really special and we'll go, yeah, actually, I noticed that 4 or 5 times during the game. I love him. Love him to bits.
He did really well, mate. But I'll tell you one bloke, the King, Gutho, geez, his percentages and stuff and his stats must be good because he's such a busy player, mate. You know, I wasn't the greatest fan of him. I wasn't the greatest fan of him in Origin last year, to be honest, but he's very good for the Eels, for sure.
Yeah, he's just a high quality club player, and that's not I'm not cracking him. He just is. He makes such a difference to that Parramatta team.
Absolutely.
Tigers get the first win of the year. They beat the Knights in Newcastle. Bad loss for the Knights because they got back in the lead with about 10 to go and coughed it up again. And Mitchell Pearce's 300th game, which is impressive in its own right. 300 games for Mitch Pearce. And I think he's only 31 or 32 now.
Yeah.
Shows you how early he started playing first grade.
Absolutely.
Tigers, don't get too excited if you're a Tigers fan, but be very happy with the fact that 2 points is 2 points and you had 0 before this game. So don't be too critical. Be very happy.
I'd suggest to be very happy with any win with the Tigers this year from what I've seen so far. I didn't get to see 1 minute of that game, though, because I was off with my son go-karting. So I didn't get to see or hear anything about football on Sunday, unfortunately. Sorry, mate. But I am happy for the Tigers to get their first win of the year. And it doesn't bother me that they beat Newcastle either.
And the last game, Titans 44-8 over the Cowboys. Ming the Merciless, Toddy Payton, he's got trouble. He's got massive trouble because he's played the tough love card already and they've got worse. And I don't know what he does because he did the old rejig of the lineup. He put Holmes back to fullback and Drinkwater to 6. And in attack, when they finally got some half-decent ball, they didn't look too bad. But it was 28-0 or 26-0 at the time. You got to
I think you should either send him a message, like send him a tweet, or slide into his DMs and ask Gus, what do you do when you lose your nana at the players and they react in a negative way? What's your next card? What card are you going to pull now?
You join the Roosters. That's what you do. Isn't that pretty much what Gus did? He got ejected. Remember, he got ejected from Caltex Field.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah, I
next
remember
week he'd sign with the Roosters.
I feel so sorry for Peyton though, because Peyton is a genuine good bloke, right? He's one of the good blokes. I don't think he's a good bloke like he doesn't party with the players or anything like that. It's just like that. It's like they haven't bought in. It just seems to me that they just have not bought in. And maybe it's time for a fair few of them to go. I think.
I was pretty harsh on him 2 weeks ago, if you recall, and I still maintain there's a lot of salary cap tied up in players that aren't difference makers.
Well,
they're good footballers,
yeah,
in the sense that their reputations are really strong, but they're not making a difference. And that's what they need up there.
You know what happens with coaches that can't get their players to fire? Either the coach moves on or the players move on. And I suggest that at the end of this year, we will find a little bit of a clean out happening up in Townsville. And some blokes who are living the dream up there in their tropical lifestyle may be soon going south.
They actually have quite a few young forwards that I would like to see given another go. I think there's some players in that lineup that, I don't know. I just think you got to bite the bullet, Toddy P. And the only bit of consolation or a spin I'll put on this, if you're Cowboys fans and Todd Payton, Justin Holbrook joined the Titans not that long ago, and the outlook was bleaker at the Titans. Yeah, it was bleaker. I'm not sugarcoating this. It was horrendous. And 3 weeks into 2021, the Titans are the best team in Queensland by a fair margin, if not length of straight. It can turn around. It can turn around. Yeah. That's the round 3 review, mate. We've got the bonus segment coming up after this. I have something in mind, but if you can cut something up in the break, we will go with that. So here's some thinking music, ladies and gents, and we'll be back on episode 230 of Not The Footy Show.
Not The Footy Show.
Jeez, I hope you got something, because I've got all, mate.
Bonus stage.
Okay, it's bonus segment time here on Not The Footy Show, the final part of a show that's going to still go for 45 minutes. I hate you, Mr. Rob Cox.
Thanks, mate.
Something I didn't hate on Friday night was Russell Crowe, Mr. Connections, bringing half of Hollywood along to his corporate box for the Rabbitohs Roosters game. There was a list of A-grade celebrities, A-list celebrities. Natalie Portman was there, who you called the girl who was in Star Wars when I brought it up for the I think she's been before the show. I think she's been a few more things than that, but she was there. Jeff Goldblum was there.
The Fly.
Which is what a great movie. Taika Waititi was there, who's Korg from Thor Ragnarok, and he's you haven't seen, if you have not seen what we do in, is it The Shadows or something like that? The one about the vampires in Wellington. It's amazing. It's like a mockumentary. Sorry, mate. You've got to look it up. You've got to look it up. It's amazing. It's one of the best things I've ever seen. It is really, really good. And then there was a guy called Chris Hemsworth and his 47.5 million Instagram followers who were treated to the South Sydney Rabbitohs hat at a footy game. The impact this has on the Bunnies. If you're in charge of the Bunnies marketing, all right, and you get this opportunity, how do you approach it? Do you just sit back and go, thank you, that's amazing, wow, 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 and then the next day you just tweet live from, Jersey Flegg games and that's it? Or do you do your best to try and really, jump all over it and, I don't know, not stop posting about it for like a month?
Mate, I think you have to take it. I think you've got to just squeeze the juice out of it, don't you? You've got to
absolutely
get as much as you can out of it. But I wonder if the marketing / social media team have any access to anything. I doubt it.
They've got still frames from the game. They've got, no doubt, Russell Crowe has some stories. I don't know. Russell Crowe, I just love the fact that he doesn't hide behind the fact that he just loves his team to bits, and he'll, anything that was missing from the box the other night was Snoop Dogg. Let's be honest.
The dog.
And this is where Menulog have to get all over that. They should have been all over the box. I don't know. There's opportunities, people. I guess this is the thing. This is the question that I bring up in the bonus segment is, we're looking for major A-grade celebrities who follow rugby league teams. Who are we missing? Like who's out there that did Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise is a Bunnies fan as well, isn't he?
He is. He's a Bunnies man.
Is there anybody else hanging around the place that you can think of that's a huge celebrity?
Greg Norman.
Who's he go for?
Probably the
Does
Bunnies.
he just default go for the Sharks?
They
or
all go.
what do
They
you-
all go for the Bunnies, mate. That's what. That's why you see
I
all
don't know.
these South Sydney jerseys everywhere, like overseas.
I guess I'm putting the question out there. If you know of anybody that's like a massive star who actually likes rugby league and likes the team, I don't know. This is where you sort of shame them and say, well, Chris Hemsworth, who hasn't even told anybody he liked rugby league before. He may have. I'm not sure. That's a baseless accusation. But but who else is out there that needs to be representing their team? I mean, you wouldn't represent Manly at the moment. I'd understand that
No.
if you're Hugh Jackman. There you go. There's one. Hugh Jackman.
Matty Nable. Matty Nable's a big Manly fan because he played there.
Who?
Don't worry, keep going.
Sorry, that was harsh. What about that guy? Anyway, cheap, nasty, and downright boring. Thanks, Rex Hunt.
Cheap, nasty, and downright boring.
Not the Footy Show.
So if you know anybody, people who's got 47.5 million Instagram followers, see if they can outdo Thor, who basically just looked after the Bunnies big time the other night.
Mate, just a quick one. Did you see that video of Reid Marnie giving our Prime Minister ScoMo a beer the other night?
He went nuts, didn't he? Mate, Reid Marnie. I've never seen him froth. He was frothing, as they say in the classic.
Absolutely frothing. And then the look of absolute despair on his face when ScoMo had 1/10 of a sip. And
I didn't get that far. I just saw.
You've got to watch it, mate.
Marnie lose it. And somebody in the background not seem very excited by it at all. I just think that'll do me. All good. Hey, that's episode. Yeah, mate.
You know what else is hilarious? The other day, I had a quick listen to the audio quality on our last podcast, and I accidentally touched my Apple Watch whilst I was listening to it in the car and put it on half speed. Have you ever heard our podcast in half speed? If you haven't, you need to, because we sound like we are as drunk as skunks.
All right, that's the challenge for you, Cocksmith. To
hilarious.
Finish off the bonus part of the show, I want you to pick out just a little segment that can be 30 seconds that you just think makes me sound drunk, which is impressive because I haven't been drunk. So send me what you think is just the quintessential drunk, not the footy show. I know this was a big thing about a year or two ago on the NRL roast. He was using that for the commentary team.
Really?
But I'm sure we sound fantastic.
Yep.
I'm sure we do.
Yep.
Okay, not the footy show, the final segment here on episode 229. That's Robb Cox. It is that way, I think. And I'm Warrick Nicolson. He's in the light. No, he's not in the light. I am in the light. I'm in the dark. If I go out here, I'm in the light. Look at that. That's delicious. Speaking of delicious, you just see the Cameron Smith Devon head from the statue. Oh, how good. Oh, how good was that? I think it's the full credit of the voice guys that did it. Just beautiful. PVL was on Nay John's Face to Face. I enjoyed this interview. Did you watch it? No.
Very good. That's episode 230, everybody. Get us on Instagram at Not The Footy Show, at NRL Tweet on Twitter. Robb is on ROBBCOX. He's posting some more stuff now, people, so make sure you're getting on Instagram there. Still waiting for a photo saying he was at these mythical games that he went to put on the Not The Footy Show account, but we'll get that eventually, and we're on
whatever
Facebook,
you want, mate.
Facebook.com.
I'll send it to you.
/NRL podcast. Have a good week, Cocksmith. I'll be up here on the coast this week. We've just been cleaning up, unfortunately, the Camden Haven copped it with the floods just recently. So
good luck with that.
Yeah, just have those people in your minds, people. Luckily, our place was okay, but it is a bit of a wasteland out here, which is a real shame. So hopefully they can recover because they were hit by some of the fires just sort of 12 months ago. Mate, that's the episode. Great to speak to you as always, and we'll speak to you all next time on Not The Footy Show, people.
Catch you later, mate. Pepsi.
Not the Footy Show.
It's people's escape, it's people's relaxation, and we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of
Not the Footy Show.
Pepsi.